When people talk about the American dream, they always mention a white picket fence. It's a symbol for private property, the nice big house that it surrounds like a moat. Homeownership might be the most important part of the American dream. It's a very big part of it. It's proof that you've made it and that you worked your ass off to get there. It's proof that in America, you are the architect of your own destiny, that you can change your lot in life no matter who you are or where you're from. Homeownership allows people to build something. It's about owning a tiny patch of America. But the American dream seems to be dying right before our eyes. There is a great meme that goes around all the time. It's maybe my favorite meme, and it's a bunch of boomers doing a cute line dance that says, boomers selling their house for $2 million after buying it in 1969 for 7 raspberries. We'll play it for you. If you got 16, you can get a visitor. I'm choking on this Elvis sweet and sipping on this. This is one of my favorite memes because in a simple, digestible, hilarious moment, it manages to distill so much of the housing crisis we face as a nation, which is what we'll be talking about tonight with my guest, Carol Roth, the brilliant Carol Roth. This is Real America with me, Bridget Phetasy. All right, let's get into it. Owning a home has never been less affordable. The cost of a median priced house eats up 34% of the average wage, which is way above the safe limit. 3 out of 4 households can't afford a median priced home at all. In some places, it costs half a person's income just to keep a roof over their head. Then, if you can even buy a house, you realize that mortgages have nearly doubled in the past decade, and that's before the extras. So many hidden costs like maintenance, taxes, and repairs add up to $21,000 a year. Most homeowners had no idea it was that high. Young Americans see this and feel locked out. Almost a third of millennials and nearly 40% of Gen Z believe they'll never own a home. In 1981, the median homeowner age was 31, and now the median homebuyer age is 56, which is an insane statistic. The cost of living is also insane. And I say that as a 46-year-old adult trying to manage it all. I can't imagine trying to get ahead if I were a young adult, saddled with hundreds of thousands of dollars in student debt. The reason I dropped out of college, by the way. I have a lot of empathy for young folks feeling frustrated and turning to socialists like Mamdani in New York. Everything is more expensive while menial jobs are being taken over by AI and robots, and the dollar continues to be devalued. Cars are so much more expensive than they were when I was younger. Insurance is insane for literally everything. Healthcare feels completely broken. Groceries still haven't come down, and utilities like water and electric continue to go up. You need 6 figures to get into a house near most cities where one could find a job. I entered the job market with basically nothing. I worked as a yoga instructor and a waitress and dozens of other odd jobs for most of my life until I finally started getting paid to write. I never had a job that gave me health insurance. I always paid for it privately. I rented until I was 44 years old. It actually never even occurred to me that homeownership was something that was I desired, but also that's something that was in my future potentially until I had a career, met my husband, and had a child, all of which I was a very late bloomer. Once I realized I'd like to partake in the American dream, whatever that looked like for us, it doesn't look the same for everyone. I realized it wasn't happening for me in California, where it seemed like the only young families I knew who could afford to buy a home had parents who could give them $250,000 to even get into their starter home. So we left. And this is the other great thing about America. You have mobility. And I moved to Texas. And even here, I couldn't afford to be as close to the city, Austin, as I'd like to be for comedy and podcasting, but at least the homes were somewhat within my reach. And because I'm a grown up, I accepted the trade offs of a long commute for a small piece of land, a very, very small piece. But it's Texas, and property taxes are nuts. And they go up every year, as well as our insurance, as well as our utilities, as well as our Netflix and HBO. Everything is going up, making it even harder to save and even harder to envision getting closer to the city. but at least we have our home and I love it and I get to love it because it's mine. We planted trees and have a garden. And my wish for everyone in America is that they get to experience their version of upward mobility in America. And a growing number of people feel like this is not the story for them. They still live with their parents. So many young people. They might go down as the first generation to be worse off than their parents. And they're angry, rightfully. I get it. Every generation has had one problem, either high rates or high prices when it comes to housing. Young adults today have both. On top of that, 25 million young Americans are paralyzed by student loan debt. You can't buy a house if you're buried under college loans. And the government has become the biggest predatory lender in America, something Carol Roth has written a lot about and we will talk about tonight. And the Fed spent 15 years holding rates down, inflating prices, and now rates are high and no one can move. Homeowners won't sell because why would they? There's a million memes about this too. Buyers can't buy. Taxes and insurance eat up a third of most mortgage payments, half in some cases. You don't really own your home, you see, you rent it from the government. And then people have to compete with Blackstone. Nearly 27% of single family homes bought this year went to investors. Before 2010, that number was near zero. Honestly, it pisses me off and I think it should be illegal, and I don't even know how it is. Wall Street gets cheap capital, buys home in bulk, and rents them back to the middle class. And if that weren't bad enough, this strategy is pushed and supported by the World Economic Forum, which is pretty much the New World Order. And they're on a mission to completely get rid of private property. You will own nothing, as was the title of Carol Roth's brilliant book. I know it's bleak. In order to buy a house, you have to compete with the US government, Wall Street, and the global elites. It's not, it feels frustrating, but I don't want to be a doomer and I don't feel entitled to anything. And I really like to talk solutions.